the studio of Four3 Performance Lab.
Back again, episode 3. We did 3.
We did 3 episodes, but really only 1 is out. That's a little silly.
We've really only done 2.
So when you see this one,
We might not make it.
there'll be 2 out.
Yes.
Yes. This will be the third one.
Yeah. You'll be seeing this. Anyway.
So, on topic for today.
So today we're going to talk about supplementation and how it affects your performance and your health. I think a big thing that people need to look at first and foremost is breaking down their activity and exactly what the demands are and where the rate limiting factor or the limiting step in that activity is. And then you can kind of plug in supplementation based on where you find you have the biggest weakness. So someone like a strength and power athlete, you need to look more at the nervous system. You know, you're looking at neural drive from the brain, also peripheral factors in the nervous system, and then technique or just gaining more muscle mass in general. For the athletes we work with, endurance-based, you're looking at nutrient delivery, improving metabolic rate, and also removal of waste products. So those are kind of the areas where you can see there being a limiting factor. With all else being equal, if you're mechanically or running properly or swimming properly or whatever it might be. For someone like a motorsport athlete, it would be keeping heart rate level in check, with the heat and the stress of driving. So I think that's where people make a mistake when picking a supplement. They just read what's newest out there and they say, well, let me try this. And it might be something that's totally inappropriate for what they're trying to do. Taking creatine for a motorsport athlete would not really do a whole lot for them. Yeah. Creatine for a strength athlete is exactly what they need. You're getting that quicker regeneration of ATP and you have a bigger pool to pull from. Because most of their events are 10 seconds or under. You look at someone that's doing 400 to 800 meter sprint. It could be more carbohydrate metabolism and things like that. And for endurance, you're like I said before, you're looking at metabolic waste removal, nutrient delivery, and then the overall encompassing theme for all these events that I listed would be recovery. What things help with recovery. And a lot of that comes down to diet and sleep, but there's also some supplements that can help with that as well.
I was going to say, I think a good point that you brought up is there's a lot of information out there without a lot of backing to it. I think, especially in the supplement world, research-supported usage of supplements is not readily accessible to the public. I think a lot of people, even in this higher level endurance sport world, rely on their friends saying, hey, I started doing X, Y, Z.
It's hard to decipher too when you go and read articles and you're like, well, it's changing this metabolic pathway. If you don't have a knowledge of that, it's like, all right, well, what am I getting out of this? Well, I'll just do what that guy's doing. And I also think in the endurance sport world, the biggest gap is that a lot of people just don't use anything. They barely go and use any nutrition when they're out on a 15-mile run. They're just like, oh, I woke up and I had a little coffee and I went and ran 15 miles and then I ate a pizza after. And that's the extent of supplementation and nutrition on that.
I also think that where people lack is they hear from their friend like, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is what worked really well. But everyone is different. Everyone's body is different. Everyone needs different things to endure that, right? Like to run 15 miles. Not everybody can do it off of a cup of coffee.
Well, that's interesting. This morning I was just talking to someone who just did Kona, and he was saying, he's like, I know nutrition's important, but I don't really know where to begin. I know I should be doing this, and I do this, but I don't feel any different. And then I have friends who drink or something or take some goo before they go run, and they say, I really feel this boost when I go run. He's like, I don't feel that, and he's like, I guess it's helping me, but I don't really, even anecdotally, forget objectively, know if it's working or not. And I think endurance sports as a whole, people are very get set into like a certain ways of doing things and don't want to change.
Very habit-driven.
Yeah, and they don't want to change that by trying different things because they're afraid, well, if I try X, Y, Z, then where I was, at least I know I was here. Maybe that'll make me worse, and then I'll have a bad run. Whatever. That lack of knowledge and kind of an ignorance to what supplements can provide and what supplements are out there to help them, I think is minimal at best, especially in the endurance athlete world. I think, like you were saying, I think it's a lot of, well, I see this guy's using this, and maybe he's a power lifter or something, or you see someone with a physique and you see them taking X, Y, Z, and you think, oh, that's
what protein are you using?
I should be doing that versus, well, this is my sport, this is my lifestyle, this is what I don't, what should I be doing here? And I think that's something that interests all of us too, is this world of supplements. And again, it's anything that you can do, within reason, within legality reasons, and within not failing, all that kind of stuff, of course, to get a little bit of an edge.
It's using things that are naturally produced in your body, or that you're naturally getting from your diet, but using it in terms of what your genetic makeup is, what your goal for a workout is, what the timing is that you're putting it in your body, are all ways of just beating the system a little bit, and the system being what your metabolic system is doing and what your body is doing and how it's processing things. And that's what really we're looking at, the science of that.
Yeah, it all comes down to picking the right tool for the job. There's a lot of conflicting research and a lot of changes going on, especially in the endurance realm. For a long time it was carb loading, and now you have people that are trying to compete being fat adapted. And you take somebody like an Olympic weightlifter, them doing, goo would almost be like a motorsport athlete taking creatine. And then you brought up research too. You really have to be critical of the research that's out there. You need to look at who's publishing it, who's paying for the research, who's backing it, what was their sample size, and who were their subjects.
Yeah, the quality of
if they're beginner subjects, beginners will make progress on almost anything. If you give something, whether it be a training protocol or a supplement, or make a change to an elite level athlete or even a highly functioning athlete, and you get a market change, even 5 or 10%, that's huge. You get a 10% change in the beginner, it's like, okay, that's to be expected.
It's like losing weight in the first week when you're somebody that's never exercised before. You're going to get that drop.
Like speaking to that too, like the quality of good research that's out there, I think is tough to kind of piece together sometimes. Finding randomized controlled trial studies, double blind and all this kind of stuff that they look at for pharmaceutical level and that sort of thing. Finding that with supplement world is somewhat kind of jaded, because again, like, you've got to try to see, is this the company itself putting out this data masked as some research thing? And I think something we enjoy doing is actually piecing through a lot of that to find, okay, what is good data, what is supporting the usage of
what did they do in this? Okay, let's go try it. Let's test it ourselves and see if it actually is doing what they say it does.
Yeah, I think doing the beta testing and actually, getting people on it and seeing how they feel on it. People that are trained, that have years of experience, and seeing the changes there, that's huge.
I think another point with that too is just because you're working, we work with the quote unquote healthy population of humans, doesn't mean people have other issues going on in their systems. And some of these supplements can interact with certain prescription drugs or underlying cardiac issues, certain issues that we should have a health professional, I think.
Be able to at least monitor and look at it and say, maybe we don't want to get this benefit in your system because of this. Or, maybe you're taking a medication that's already trying to decrease your heart rate for a certain reason, so maybe we don't want to play around with something else that would, play a role in that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, any kind of dietary or supplement change, should be brought up with a physician first. The onus is really on the consumer to have that kind of prudence.
And I think understanding, even, again, not saying beyond the physician, but I think knowing what what these supplements actually are and what they're actually doing to your body. So you see something that says like, oh, run longer or whatever, kind of bottle thing, and people go, oh yeah, I'm going to take that. Yeah, it sounds good, but to know what actually is contained inside that powder or capsule, whatever you're taking, and knowing how that is doing what it says it's supposed to be doing to your system.
And I think anytime you take a supplement that is sourced naturally or something that we would find in our diets anyway, you have a much lower risk of having any kind of an adverse event. Going back to creatine, it's found in broccoli, it's found in meat. It's a very high concentration of meat. So if you're eating meat, you're getting more creatine. Glutamine or branched chain amino acids, again, in any kind of a protein source. We'll be discussing beetroot powder. That's you get nitrates. You get nitrates in a lot of different fruits and vegetables. It just happens to be very concentrated. In beets because of the soil that they sit in.
And I think that kind of gets back to like what I'm saying, where you're having someone to consult with, but prior to taking any kind of supplement or any change in your diet with that in the supplementation world, I think is a good idea. Just that so you as an athlete have an idea of, okay, well, this is what this is doing to me. And have that awareness. I think it should be done all the time. I don't think. Again, your body is your life pretty much in these sports, and as cliche as it is, I think keeping that tempo as like idealistic as you can is the most important thing. Is if your body starts to break down,
you're not doing anything.
A lot of trouble, and you don't know what you're polluting yourself with, if it's good, bad, whatever it might be. So just having that awareness to say, okay, well, I'm taking this for this reason, this is what this does, and here's some possible things I need to look out for from a side effect standpoint that might be related to this, that I think is also important. All that being said, maybe, Brian, we could touch on some supplements that for endurance sports, maybe we can talk a little bit about ones that you think are, make sense for endurance athletes and possible
absolutely.
benefits.
Kind of going back to what I opened up with, you're looking at trying to enhance nutrient delivery, so you either have improved blood flow by vasodilating, so you're getting more oxygen coming past the cells to help with energy production and things like that. Also, waste removal or preventing waste from building up. You look at something like a beta-alanine, which helps buffer acids and keep pH in check, so you can train a little bit longer. And then you also look at something like glutamine or branched chain aminos, and that helps prevent muscle tissue breakdown from heavy training. It gives you more of an anabolic response. So you're kind of coming at it from a multifaceted approach. Attacking it from a lot of different angles. Then you look at something like beetroot juice, which improves nitric oxide levels in the body. Going back to what I said before, there's a heavy nitrate component in the soil, and the beets tend to take that up. And then when it mixes with our saliva, it actually, helps us generate nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator that works on the endothelial cells in our vasculature. So then you're getting more nutrient delivery. So if you can kind of, take supplements and combine the ones that would have a synergistic kind of effect, you have a pretty potent combo.
I think that's a good point you're making, that it's not just one thing that is going to make a change. It might be
a combination.
Just like anything, like how we work with athletes here. It's not just one facet we're going after. We're trying to look at them as a whole and find multiple areas where we can make small changes together to make one big change in their performance. And I think, like you're saying, this supplement is a similar situation where it might not be one thing. You need to address little spots along so that you can make the biggest change possible.
Yeah, because if you're looking at a combination of, like, say, the beetroot and the branched chain aminos and the glutamine. Okay, beetroot is great because it's increasing the blood flow to the muscles that are able to do more longer. But if you're getting breakdown of proteins and breakdown of muscle in that time.
Because you are training harder.
Yeah, what benefit are you going to have? Okay, well that's where the amino acids come in. And then looking at it from a recovery standpoint, if you're not adequately recovering because you're draining all of the glutamine from your body because you're training so hard, well then you're not going to get those same benefits next time. So you have to look at the overlay of things as it's building up.
That's a good point. Especially if, like you're saying, if you're now increasing your training to say, well, I've got this supporting me, you need to make sure on the back end that everything else is taken care of with respect to that as well.
One of the biggest benefits to glutamine, aside from just the anti-catabolic and muscle-sparing effects, is that it helps with gut health. And a lot of endurance athletes experience a lot of digestive issues.
Yes.
Not only from the constant pounding, but the high calorie load. That's constantly hitting the microbiota of the gut, and glutamine can help to kind of stave off some of that.
I think that's a really good point too, and one that maybe we can touch base on another podcast. I think it could be its own thing, really.
Yes.
I think it's a topic that not that people are uncomfortable talking about, but it might not be,
Gut health. Yeah. It's important. It's important for your immune system.
70% of your immune system's in your gut. Going back real quick, one of the biggest benefits with glutamine is the enhancement of the immune system.
Yeah.
And helping you stay.
Yeah. And you look at people that have high training loads and are overtraining, lots of times they end up getting sick. Well, maybe there's a correlation between that decrease in the glutamine in your body. And, I don't know, I'm going to go look and see if there is a study out there. Maybe that's something that we need to look in more. What's the correlation between people that get sick at a certain point in their training cycle and the load that they're doing in that, and are they supplementing and replacing things the right way?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's just I think people lack in that when they're training hard, their body is losing certain things, and they need to supplement that in a healthy level, and they need to understand what it's going to do for their body, because if they don't, they're going to break down, they're going to get sick, they're going to get hurt.
Yeah, and you spend all this time training, and all this dedication and everything. If you don't take care of your, like we're talking about body, like you were saying, your immune system becoming weakened and all that sort of thing.
Some of the problem too is that you've had the government come out with different reports on look at the RDA. The RDA was developed just to prevent deficiency. So if you want to operate at a high level, you don't want to just prevent deficiency. You're going to need super physiological doses of certain things to perform at a high level. As long as it's safe, you run it past your doctor. You need to look at the areas, going back to what we spoke about in the beginning, the areas that you need to kind of fill the gaps. You look at vitamin C, they say 60 milligrams a day. Well, that's great, that'll prevent scurvy, but if you're training really hard, you probably need a little bit more of an antioxidant load to prevent tissue breakdown. And damage. Exactly.
And I think that it's a good point you bring up too, is a lot of physicians don't get it because they're not in that world. They're only in the world of preventing deficiency. This higher level athlete world, I think there's a lot lacking in that. And I often find ourselves as maybe the front line with people with questions. I mean, we're seeing them on a much more regular basis than a physician.
And another topic that I would love for us to get into at some point in our podcast is if anybody knows an MD or a doctor out there that does specialize in the needs of endurance athletes or anywhere in the country, I'd love to talk to them because
legitimately specializes.
I would love
saying that to get
that understands it and treats people and looks at the whole picture, because that's something that I would look for.
Comment below, please.
You have to bring in a race bib to prove that you're an athlete to go to that doctor. That's who we want to talk to.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's just something that I always think about, like on a personal level of what would I be looking for? I don't want somebody that's just going to be like, well, all these little blood work things, they fit into the right category, so you're good to go. Well, it's not looking at the whole picture and what I do to my body.
That could be the fifth person here sitting next to Brian. New team member. But all right, so we got glutamine. What else?
Branched chain aminos. We talked about a little bit.
Beta-alanine. Beta-alanine helps to boost carnosine levels in the body, which helps buffer acid, which is a big problem. pH changes as you exercise longer and longer. Through metabolism. You generally want a more alkaline environment for health and for optimal functioning of your cells. And as you exercise, your pH can tend to drop a little bit. And that's separate from lactate. For a long time, people thought lactate was this demon, and that's what was really causing not only fatigue but also muscle soreness, neither of which are true. Lactate, much like ketones, can actually be used by other tissues, the heart, the brain.
And I think that's another topic that we could even go off on, because that whole stigma has been around for so long.
Yeah.
You have these...
Lactate is actually useful.
Yeah, these coaches and other people who just are misinformed, or going back what their dad told them or what their coach told them, whatever.
Yeah, the football coach told them in third grade.
Oh yeah, it's lactic acid buildup, all this sort of thing. I think breaking that idea because research, like you said, it's a lot of research now that's forget it. That's not true. I think that's a really interesting point that I'm sure a lot of the public and professional athletes as a whole probably don't even understand.
And I think that's what's great about this group is everybody is always looking for the next research that's coming out. And everybody's always listening to different podcasts and watching different videos and following certain people on social media, so we can stay up on the trend. And I think that we're going to set the trend in a lot of our research when we get that population going of our athletes.
Yeah, I think that we're all research junkies. I think we all just like doing it.
I like trying new things. I like to be that beta tester.
Everyone's involved in this world. We're not looking from the outside in. We're trying to be, we're part of the community.
Right.
And, it's just as any other athlete would be interested in what's out there, so are we.
I think we're in the best position to, give information and try things. If you have, the gym rat that's just, pumping out the same information they get from Muscle and Fiction, try this new supplement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the lab coat guy who's just in the lab working organic
with a rat.
chemistry. Exactly.
Hey,
We're kind of right.
did it.
We're kind of right in the middle of that. We're athletes as well as people that are, have a science background.
Yeah,
and we'll actually try this.
That's a really good point. I think us being athletes in that world, as well as being in the health professions, I think being entrenched in that, being able to have this kind of center here where we can bring all this knowledge base together to be a front line really for endurance athletes, I think is a really cool thing. And like we said before, we'll start bringing in some other specialists that have different viewpoints that's outside of our little realm, but also can help promote the endurance sports. I think is going to be really cool.
I mean, quite frankly, I think athletes should have a level of comfort coming here, because we're not going to recommend anything to you. We're not going to make you do anything. But we haven't already tried ourselves.
Right.
If I'm not going to do it, why would I make you do it? It might not be the best thing for me, but at least I can say, hey, I tried this. I got this result. Brian tried it and he got this result. They were two totally different things. Yeah. Now let's have you try it. Let's see if it's the right thing for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Do we go into hydration a little bit?
I think hydration could be a whole other podcast, but just in general, with looking at the amount of electrolytes and sodium content that you're losing in your sweat is probably the biggest key in rehydrating yourself.
Changes with people just by personalizing and addressing.
As opposed to looking at the volume of water that you're losing, looking at the concentration of electrolytes and getting that right amount in your body and timing it the right way. I think when you look at how your performance drops based on the amount of electrolytes you're using, it goes incrementally, and as you lose more and more, your performance just drops. It just comes down.
2% drop.
And you see that people on the run in long distance, long course tries, they just start to plummet at a certain point, and a lot of that is nutritionally based, but most of it I would say is probably hydration based. They haven't been replacing enough as they go along.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up just as a primer to potentially a future podcast for us, but also to put it out there that if your hydration and your nutrition aren't where they need to be, then none of the training or the supplementation will even matter.
Right.
You need to make sure you have that base first and have the framework.
Yeah, and it can make a dramatic change. I think just by from a cognitive standpoint as well, being able to focus on form, later into races.
Absolutely.
Especially for motorsport, being able to focus.
Cognition-wise,
your brain starts to swell.
And you forget tactical as well. I mean,
you're out there in the sun.
That split-second difference, being able to focus and not could be life or death for
firefighters,
Yeah, and you never know when you're going to have to make that quick decision in real life, especially when you're racing. Someone cuts in front of you. Whatever factor.
Right. If you're able to react just a little bit sooner, maybe that's the difference between you finishing the race and you not finishing the race.
Yeah, and not getting hurt.
Yeah, when you're looking at moving 200 miles an hour, a quarter of a second, you're covering how much ground. That can be the difference between.
Another point that I thought was interesting that you brought up about the water is also like the pH, like you're saying, the body's pH changes as you go along. So, there's a lot of talk about drinking alkaline water and all this sort of thing. I've never seen that correlated to endurance sports. At least I haven't seen it personally in research at all, saying that testing regular tap water with a pH of whatever that might be versus like we have here with this osmosis filter, like it swings it over to an alkaline pH. So versus the regular, like my tap water at home is acidic, which is terrible.
Yeah, mine is too.
And
it's eating my pipes.
Yeah, they threw my hot water here and broke
my pipes in my house. My pipes in my house too.
Yes. 7 years. Yeah.
Your pipes in your pipe.
7 years of this hot water here, 8 out the bottom. And I have a water softener, but it's it only does so much. But with the filter, being able to swing that back for at least for drinking water and boiling and cooking purposes, it's nice to have. And I know personally drinking that, I feel better. Again, this is all anecdotal, but like I won't even drink the Poland Spring. I'll come fill up here because I feel better when I have that. And I don't know from an endurance athlete standpoint if I haven't seen any research where they've compared, quote unquote regular tap water, whatever that pH might be. You can test it, but versus an alkaline,
or at least a negligible.
Yeah, and see if if that alone performance-wise changes given similar conditions. I don't know. It'd be something interesting for us to pull around.
Something to dig into.
Any other things you want to touch on?
I think that was it.
It's a good basic overview.
Yeah.
4 more podcast topics came out of this.
Yeah,
exactly.
So more to come.
Keep working, Zach.
It's good. So please, anything you want to talk about?
If you have questions about supplementation and our thoughts on it in more detail, feel free to
even insights,
email, comment, anything. We'll get right back to you.
Right.
Again, we want this to be a community for everyone, not just us talking to you. We want feedback and thoughts and ideas and things that we could fool around with.
Right. And if there's questions that we think are pertinent, we'll put out a video on Instagram or another YouTube video to answer specifically people's questions or to hit points that we may have missed. So.
Or if you have supplements that you're using that you find have made a change in your performance, things we haven't mentioned here,
things that we don't know.
Again, the more we can kind of keep this whole community for everyone to get some knowledge out of it, it's the way to go.
So please subscribe.
Yes,
that's one of the most important things to do because we're
and subscribe.
Daily updating vlogs. We have testing videos out.
Vlogs.
We've got our podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Four3 Performance Lab, Instagram and Twitter at Team Four3, and I'll put all our personal accounts on the bottom. And thank you for listening and watching the Four3 Performance podcast yet again. Have a great weekend.
Enjoy the holiday.
Yeah.
This will be after the holiday. Hope you enjoyed your holiday.
Yeah.
Avoid the traffic.
Yeah.
Peace.